Hey guys, so a lot of you were saying that you were getting mixed up with equations, so I wanted to give you guys some notes on multi-step equations. So remember to use inverse operations to solve them, basically saying you're using the opposite, so if it's adding, you're subtracting, if it's multiplying, you're dividing. And then if there are variables on both sides, move them to one side and you isolate them, so that way you can solve it. And then you still follow all the same steps as before, so you distribute, you combine like terms. So basically we're just adding a few more steps. And I know this is the part that confuses you guys or that gets a little more complicated. So I wanted to go over and review some of these with you. So if you need to right now, pause it. I'm going to scoot it down so we can start working on some of these problems together. All right, so our first problem is 15 minus 2x equals negative 7x. If you wrote this down earlier, I forgot the negative sign. Add it back. Make sure you have that, otherwise it's not going to solve the same. So if you guys look, we have negative 2x on one side and negative 7x on the other. So we need to get our x's on the same side. So the 7x is already alone, so I'm just going to move the 2x to that other side. So the opposite of a negative is a positive. So plus 2x. Plus 2x, negative 2x, and a positive 2x cancels. So now I have 15 equals, well, negative 7 and positive 2 gives you a negative 5x. Now I still need to get my x alone. I got to isolate it. So the inverse of multiplication is division. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So x equals negative 3, okay? And if you guys remember, you guys can check this to make sure that you're right. That way you're not second guessing whether or not you solved the equation right. So what that means is you just take the original problem, so 15 minus 2, instead of x, you put what x equals, negative 3, equals negative 7 times negative 3. And then that way when I solve it, order of operations, we have negative 2 times negative 3. So that is 15 plus 6 equals negative times a negative is a positive, and 15 plus 6 is 21. So you know you did it correctly, okay? So again, checking your answer is a way to know that you did it right and you got the right answer. So once you guys have that, feel free to go to the next problem with me. If you don't, pause it, make sure you write it down, and then we're going to do the next one. All right, so my next problem is negative 2 parentheses x minus 5 equals 6 parentheses 2 minus 1/2 x. Guys, if you want to write it 1 over 2 to show 1/2, that's fine. I just was not able to do that. So I just did the slash. It means the same thing. So our first step is going to be distribute. Before we can even get the x's on the same side, we need to distribute. So this negative 2 is getting multiplied by everything inside. So negative 2 times x, negative 2x, negative 2 times negative 5, positive 10. And then I need to do the same thing on the other side. Distribute your 6. So 6 times 2. And then I know a lot of you guys struggle with fractions. If you think about it, whole numbers go over 1. So you're taking 6 over 1 times negative 1 over 2. Whenever you're multiplying by something by a half, you're really just dividing it by 2. So like if you think about this, 6 times negative 1, negative 6, 1 times 2 is 2. Right here is showing it's 6 divided by 2. And so that's how you get negative 3. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now, we distributed, we can move on to our next step. We have variables on both sides. It really doesn't matter what one you move. I like to avoid negatives, so I'm going to move that negative 3x so it's positive, so it cancels out this negative 2 on the other side. So watch what I do. So I do positive 3x, positive 3x. So negative 3x and 3x is gone, so you just have 12. Then over here you have negative 2x and a positive 3x. That's like saying 3 minus 2. So you just have 1x or x plus 10 equals 12. I need to get x alone. So I subtract 10 on both sides. So x equals 12 minus 10 is just 2. And that's your answer. And then again, same thing. You can go back, plug in 2 for every single x in this problem, and check it to make sure you get the right answer. So again, write it all down, make sure you have it, pause it, and then move on when you are ready. All right, so for my next problem, I have 3 minus 4x equals negative 7 minus 4x. So again, we need to make sure that we get our variables on the same side. So it doesn't matter what one you move. So if I do plus 4x plus 4x, this cancels, but here's my problem. This also cancels. Negative 4x plus 4x is also gone. So this equation is saying that 3 equals negative 7. Obviously, that is not true. 3 does not equal negative 7. So this is a special problem. This is actually no solution. So what that means is no matter what number I plug in for x, it's not going to work. Because if you guys notice, those variables are exactly the same on both sides, but the constants aren't. So if you see a problem like that, you should know that there's not going to be a solution. You're not going to be able to solve it. So again, pause it if you need to. I'm going to flip my page so I can go on to the next one. Make sure you have this written down and then move on when you're ready. Okay, so for my next problem, I have 5x minus 2, parentheses, x minus 3, equals 6. So I actually have all the variables on the same side, so I just need to distribute first. So I'm going to take negative 2 and distribute it to everything inside. So I have 5x minus 2x plus 6 equals 6. Now, I have the variables on the same side, so I can combine my like terms. These both have the variable. They both have an x. So 5x minus 2x is 3x. So 3x plus 6 equals 6. I need to isolate my variable, so the opposite of a positive 6 is a negative 6. I do that on both sides. So 3x equals 0. And then to get rid of multiplication, you divide, and 0 divided by anything is just 0. So I want to point out that 0 and no solution are not the same. 0 is a number. It can be your answer. No solution, no number works. So that's the biggest confusion I see with no solution and 0. So definitely write that one down. Make sure you guys understand. If you are not sure, make sure you guys come to me with questions so that I can help you out with those. And then same thing, pause if you need to write it down. I'm going to move on to my next problem. All right, so for my next one, I have 6x plus 4 equals 4, parentheses, 3 halves x plus 1. So again, the 3 halves is just 3 over 2. I just couldn't write it that way. Doesn't matter how you write it, still means the same thing. So the first thing we need to do is distribute that 4 to everything inside. So I'm just going to remind you guys again, when you are multiplying whole numbers by fractions, your whole number goes over 1, and you're multiplying it by your fraction. So you can just multiply straight across unless you want to cross reduce. It really doesn't matter. In this case, 4 times 3 is 12, 1 times 2 is 2, and then 12 divided by 2 is just 6. So I'm going to rewrite this. 6x plus 4 equals 6x, because remember 12 divided by 2 is 6, and then plus 6. 4 times 1 is just 4. Okay, so pause. Look at your equation right now. 6x plus 4 equals 6x plus 4. You should know your answer already. But if not, let's talk about it. So again, you want to get your variables on the same side, but watch what happens. If I subtract 6x on both sides, now I have 4 equals 4. Well, is that true? Yes. So this is a special solution as well, where it is infinite or many solutions. A lot of times when I do this, I just do the infinity sign. Okay, so that works because it's always going to equal each other. Okay, so I gave you guys a few examples and then I gave you 3 special solutions. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to give you some practice problems. So again, pause it, go back, review, and then move on to the next problems and see if you guys can do them yourself before I help you. Okay, so these are the 3 problems for you guys to try. Again, I want you to try them on your own. So write them down, pause the video, review your notes, and then come back so that you can review them with me and make sure that you guys got the right answer, although you should know you got the right answer because you can check it. So pause it, come back, review it with me. Okay, so the first one, you need to distribute your 3. So I'm going to distribute that. So I have 3x minus 12 equals 5x minus 2. Okay. I need to get my x's on the same side. I'm going to move my 3x. So opposite of a positive is a negative. If you move the 5, it doesn't matter. It'll give you the same thing. So negative 12 equals, well, 5 minus 3, 2x minus 2. I need to get my -2 to the other side. So opposite of a negative is a positive. -12 plus 2 is -10. That equals 2x. Get rid of your multiplication. So x equals -5. Again, if you moved the 5x instead or you moved a constant first, it's not going to change anything. You'll still get x equals -5. You just kind of did it a different order, and that's totally fine. All right, next one. We're going to distribute the 6 to everything inside. So 12x plus 24 equals, same thing over here, distribute the 4, 12x plus 24. You should be done. You shouldn't have to go any further. You should know what your answer is. Just in case, if you decided to move that 12x minus 12x is gone. I have 24. 12x minus 12x is gone. I have 24. Same thing, infinite or many solutions. Okay? Now let me scoot this down a little bit to do my last problem. So this one, I have 5x plus 2 minus x. So these guys are on the same side, so I need to combine those. So 5x minus x is 4x plus 2 equals -4x. Now I can get my variables on the same side. This guy's already alone, so I'm going to do the opposite over here. The opposite of positive, negative. So that's gone. I just have 2. Over here, remember, this is like saying -4x plus -4x. So that gives me -8x. And then I need to isolate the variable, meaning I'm getting the x alone, so I'm actually dividing by -8. A lot of times you guys get mixed up on these problems, and you would take 8 divided by 2. It's not 8 divided by 2. It's 2 divided by -8. So all you need to do is simplify, and these are both reduced by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. -8 divided by 2 is -4. I would just rewrite it, x equals -1/4. You're totally fine having the negative sign on the bottom. I just put it on the top because a lot of times if I have it on the bottom, I'll forget it. Or if I write like -1/4, a lot of times that negative sign gets stuck with my division bar and then I forget it or I mess up. So however you want to do it, it'll still be right as long as you have it with a negative. If you put it as a decimal, that's fine too. I think fractions are easier. So make sure you guys review this, go back, take notes on what you don't understand, and make sure that you guys have questions for when you guys come back and see me so that we can go over this.